All right, welcome everyone. Our next author is Alexis Gladstone. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
All right, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey as an author?
A journey as an author.
Yes.
So, a little bit about me. So, my background is all about helping people become better leaders of themselves and other people. But back in school, I was always told I was a really good writer, and I've always liked writing. And then when you go to school, college and graduate school and stuff, they take the creative writing piece out of you a little bit because you have to write in terms of business type of things, business strategy and business writing. And so I got away from that and I became really good at writing business stuff and wanted to kind of get back and find my more creative voice. So I've participated in a number of different anthologies and that's where we are today.
Yeah. So what inspired you to write your story in Revitalize for the Soul? And was there a defining moment or event that sparked the idea?
Yeah, there was a defining. It was you. Uh, we were having one of our calls. And I was struggling because, as Kim knows, I'm a two-time breast cancer survivor, and I was looking at doing something related to that. And I was struggling. And Kim saw that I was struggling. And then somebody on the call, and I don't recall if it was you or one of the other authors, said something, and this memory just came to me that I used to talk about a lot, but I hadn't talked about in a long time. And that was kind of this whole idea on perfectionism. So that's where it just kind of poured out of me from there.
Yeah. So what is the central theme or message of your chapter, like you just said, but why don't you talk a little bit more and why is it important to you?
The central theme is about the constraints we put on ourselves with perfectionism and also what we perceive other people expect from us and how we internalize that and how it shows up in our behavior and how we show up in the world. So my story is about kind of my getting away from perfectionism because it took me a long time to realize that, perfect is not necessarily the way you always have to be. And
Yeah.
so that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, perfectionism can stop a lot of people, right? And I always say, do it messy. And a lot of people are uncomfortable
I
being,
was gonna say, yeah, you're the perfect example of that, just try it and things. And I was, because I was, as my story talks about, because I was acknowledged for being good at things, and being good at things was came very natural to me early on, and then it was harder. I
Mhm.
had to figure out how to balance all that and how to release it for myself and for others in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. So how did you develop the character or the storyline, and did any part of the chapter surprise you as you wrote it?
Um, What surprised me probably the most, because one of my sisters figures prominently in the story. What surprised me the most was our different recollection, because when I went back and talked with her about what she remembered and how she remembered it versus I remembered it was quite fascinating.
Mhm.
But it was really, like I said, it's a story I used to talk about, so nothing in the writing actually brought up anything new per se.
Yeah. So was there a particular scene in the story that especially meaningful to you and why?
Um, I think that it was probably the end, which is where I realized what I needed for myself and then was able to articulate that to, I mean, the other people in the story that figure are my parents, and I was able to articulate that to my parents about what was important to me now as an adult and what I was going to be focusing on. I don't want to give too much away.
No.
I mean, it's a short little story, but I don't want to give too much away. So that was probably the most meaningful piece.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's a short story, but it's actually a very impactful story. So it is something that I encourage each and every one of you out there to buy the book and read because Alexis's story really will resonate with you. Because our world is so much about what you share. And I think it's important to kind of get in your shoes and understand it from your perspective. So what challenges did you face
Absolutely.
during the writing process and how did you overcome them?
Probably the hardest part for me was getting out of the business writing
Mhm.
sort of because that's not my style to be, like I said, early on in my life, when I was in school and, junior high and high school and stuff, I was a good creative writer, but that's kind of, it disappeared for a while. So trying to get back into that was probably the hardest part for me. Thank goodness for you and your coaching. Thank you. And so that was really it, because again, my brain just has been trained for so many years now to think in a different structure.
Yeah. Well, I think, looking back, there was a time, I think in the late 80s when the school system started to segment us. There was this whole putting people in pods and all of that. And I know that
Hmm.
once you were defined to be a mathematician or a business person or a creative writer or a theater person or whatever category they put you in, you tended to be in that. And I personally was in math and I was an artist. And I remember that it was actually my mom that used to make fun of me and was mad at me because I didn't take typing as a freshman. That was so important to take keyboarding, typing. And
Hmm.
I knew I would take it later, like I did. In college, I went to technical college part-time while I was going to college in summer school to take the catch up on the typing. But I feel very comfortable in more that mathematical way to write, which is the research. And I have published many research articles prior to doing creative
Right.
writing, which was later, 15 years ago, I started doing children's books. And I get that, and it's like a structured, easy approach, almost a perfectionism approach, if you want to say it like that. It is really easy to form into a framework first. And creative writing, getting that story from from your heart, right, is
Hmm.
it seems it's harder because we've almost trained ourselves not to do it, which is actually an easier way to do it. Writing creatively is
Well,
easier.
what's really funny, oh,
Go for
yeah,
it. Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When I was thinking, I remember in grad school,
Hmm.
my biggest pet peeve when we had to write papers was write a X number of page paper, write a 5-page paper on whatever the topic was. And I'd be like, but I can say it in 3. Why do I need to say, why do I need to do 5 if I can say it in
Yeah.
3? And you were dinged if you didn't give whatever the minimum number of pages
Hmm.
were. I don't know if that's still the case because this was quite a while ago. So it is just kind of the different influences we've had on
Yeah.
us, when it comes to our writing and the things we gravitate toward and the things we pick up and that stays with us.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it is that way because I still do submit publications to research, to conferences and so on to keep my credentials going with the business side. And they do say, well, your paper's too short. I'm going, what gets the point across? So there is a rule
I
around
was
that
gonna
that
say,
they follow.
yeah, that's very
So
academic. It's the academic side of things, right?
yeah, yeah. But as long as a person can understand that and be able to take a hat off, put that academia hat on, and then take it off and put the creative hat on, that's the part that I always say, it's like you have to practice. It's almost practicing a muscle in how you write, just like writing poetry. It's a
Right.
whole different way of writing, right? And even the types of poetry is different. So, how does this chapter reflect your personal experiences or perspectives?
Well, I mean, I think when I really think about, kind of the journey of kind of, as I said, kind of growing out of my perfectionism, one of the things that I realized when I started my first job, the first company I worked for, there was still the perfection piece in it, and it made me not want to ask for help because I should be able to figure it out myself. I know how to do that. I'm, whether, that piece of the perfectionism. And so not asking for help really probably hampered me early in my career. And not wanting to admit that I didn't know something. So being able to get over that and through that, I like to say through it versus over it, I think has really helped me grow as both a businesswoman and as a friend and everything else. So I think that's, what it's helped me do.
Yeah. So how do you approach the creative process? And do you have any routines or rituals that help you write?
All I'm doing right now, because I have not been spending any time much since the chapter is done on the creative side of things, but I do in the morning, I do my morning meditation and I do some kind of writing. Or as you recommended, which I haven't done in a while, started just kind of sketching and drawing, even though I'm not an art. I don't think of myself as artistic, but still just, even just using different colored pencils and doing shapes and just different things to just try and activate that side of my brain. That's kind of what I do to that I pretty religiously. Kind of fell off during the holidays, like a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the Kindle book is out now and it's at a reduced price for only 99 cents. And we're encouraging everyone to buy it, read it, let it sit for a bit. And I'd like to encourage everyone to read Alexis's story. And then we're asking that you write a little review and some feedback on Amazon. And that's going to only help us to, get the book out there more because we do want to get these stories out there to be read so that people can get reconnected and learn something and get inspired. So, Alexis, how do you handle feedback or criticism about your work?
I just kind of take it in and I sit back and I'm one of those people that, depending on what it is and what the topic is and what the timing is, sit back and I kind of have to digest it. So I try not to respond in the moment because
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And that's what I coach my clients and stuff do, that you just really have to sit with it
Hmm.
and say, and to me, feedback is, they always say feedback is a gift, which it is, but we make determinations. We decide what part of the feedback we're going to take on and
Hmm.
what we're going to do with it. So that's kind of my process.
Yeah, I think, there's different kinds of ways that we are actually providing our information. It is your truth in your life at this time that you shared.
Mhm.
And the feedback from someone else could be that their truth looks different. That's all it is. And then also
Yeah.
the other feedback is really where you're coming from is their critique on what, like, so it makes you better, right? Because that's part of that. So looking at it from that
Mhm.
perspective is what you just answered. But really, it is just curiosity, knowing that this feedback, we're asking each of you, audience members and readers, to give us feedback. It's very interesting to hear how we're going to receive it, which is great, right? Which is good stuff. Um,
All feedback to me is valuable.
mhm.
It's what we choose to do with it and how we choose to process it. So
So, how has writing your chapter for this Revitalize for the Soul book, Volume 1, changed or influenced you personally?
it's made me want to write more again. So, that's kind of one of my, for this year, that I started in, January, really kind of thinking about it. It reinvigorated my desire to do that.
I love it.
So I thank you for that. And
Yeah.
and and I agree with you about reading about, it's not just don't reading my story, it's all the stories. There's so many interesting, heartfelt stories that are part of this anthology. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and what's been really fun is we've been able to read each other's work along the way and get
Hmm.
everyone's perspective and get to know each other. There's been training involved in it. People have used the coaching or not. It just depended upon what people needed or wanted. Some people got regular coaching. Some people just wanted to get the story out there, but they can get the publishing experience. And we are doing another Revitalize for Your Soul. Volume 2, we're going to kick that off right after the summit, and we're going to bring in 20 new authors. Also, people that have participated in this past one are also coming on board, and we're going to publish that in 2026. We're going to do some similar things with cohorts and other things. So, the audience, if you're interested in that, go to my website, kimgroshek.com. You'll see a link for that, and you can read about it and reach out to me if you have any questions. So, what advice would you give
I
to
highly encourage anybody to. I was just going to say, I highly encourage anybody to do it. If you have any inkling that you think you want to participate, I encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, what advice would you, Alexis, give to aspiring authors or those considering to write their first chapter in a book?
I think it depends on where you're starting from. I have found that writing a chapter in a book is a great way to start because you are getting, especially with your process, Kim. I mean, all the interaction and stuff that hasn't been the same with some of the other processes, but you're still part of a group. It's not overwhelming because we're talking a chapter. And depending on, what the book content is, there's, limited space. So I think that's a great way to start if you have any interest. And I know I get offers all the time to join, different anthology books that are going out.
Hmm. So, do you have any upcoming projects or plans that you're excited to share with us and the audience, and where they can find out more information about that?
I am right. I have been spending my first couple months of this year because I wasn't able to spend time at the end of last year doing some planning for some of those different things that are going on. But if you ever want to find me, I'm all over LinkedIn. As people say to me, they're like, I see your posts all the time. So I'm on LinkedIn. My website is intolead.com, and that's where you can find out just more about me and the types of things I do and who I work with.
Awesome. So, is there a final message that you'd like to share with our readers and audience here today?
Just that, going through a process like this, whether you're doing it now or you've already done it, a great way to reflect on yourself and reflect on who you want to be and what, and where you're going. And if writing helps you do that and it kind of helps you go more introspectively, then I encourage you to do it. But just follow and take the risk, take the leap into something new and different.
Yeah, take the risk. That's awesome. I think a lot of people are risk averse, so I love that. And I really appreciate you being a part of this, Alexis. It's been amazing. A few months of experience getting to know you even more. And I love that your contribution of your story in the book. I think everyone will love it. So please, everyone, again, buy the book so that you can read Alexis's story. And thank you again for taking the time today, Alexis, to share a little bit more of you.
Thanks.